The energy is harsh or high frequency, let's say. High frequency, which forces us to purge anything that's hanging on. I was chatting today, just a little bit, or emailing or whatever, and just stating what we already know, that everything that made our lives work in 3D stopped working. And typically, at least for me, and I know I'm certain for others, starseeds, light workers, that they had to try much harder than the average drone to make life work. And it wasn't just because drones can be drones easier than we can. It was just drones were in the right frequency to succeed. Darkness succeeded in low frequency, and higher frequency starseeds did not do well. That's why we wandered. We really didn't fit in anywhere. Friends, family, and stuff. Relationships were always kind of weird, and then moving through the awakening, those relationships blew up. They just weren't compatible anymore, and here we are. But that means that moving forward, at some point, life will support us more than it supports the drones, because that low frequency either has to diverge or rise up and participate in the restructure, rebuilding, or establishing new systems that are of high frequency. They're not controlled by psychopaths. So we sold a van today. That's a little more freedom for me. The less I own, the freer I am. And I like that. I'm not a fan. It's funny, I was listening to a movie saying, it was a TV show or something like that. I'm trying to think. It doesn't matter. It's just on online. And saying you're afraid of commitment. Somebody said you're afraid of commitment because the guy didn't want a car. And I thought about that. And I said, I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of the drama, I think. I'm not afraid, but I'm not interested in the drama. I'm not interested in, the insurance and the registration, the licensing, the vaccidents, people that get the vax and can't drive properly. Just having a car in the park. I just don't want one. I live in a city at this point. Well, I don't need one, and I'm not working outside, so I drove the van once to get it, or twice. Once to get it inspected, another time to get it fixed up, and a third time selling it, and that was it. And that's in a period of a year, basically, in 1 year. So what was the point? Just paying for insurance for nothing. So people are getting crazier out there. They're sort of money backup, equity in house, credit cards, room on the credit cards, all that stuff starts to get filled up because people were thinking this thing was eventually going to go back to normal. Boy, they're going to really freak out when they realize that it's never going back to normal, and that the old system, the New World Order, had no intention of allowing anybody to take the mask off. But by now, the hardcore drones would never take it off. They would. That's part of their life now. It doesn't take much to train a drone, does it? So these people who are draining the resources are going to start to get crazier, weirder. At some point, they're going to rise up. I heard Juan O'Savin talking about they're going to arrest Trump. Well, he didn't confirm it, but that's the whatever, what people are talking about, arrest him, because they're chasing him, and they're going to find something for sure, like they always do. They make it up. And I don't think that's going to change very much. I don't think people are going to rise up for any reason. I think, any reason like that. I know uprisings are coming, but they're going to get sparked by probably a mass amount of death. Really, the mainstream media has to be dishing out more truth. But it's funny, we're getting more corruption come to the surface through all this stuff. And there'll be even more if Trump is arrested, more stuff coming to the surface. It's funny, I had, over the last year or so, actually a lot longer than that. I was talking about Big Pharma for a long time. The opiates and just all the shit that's going on, the amount of damage they're doing. Once the justice is cleaned up and, and it's going to be cleaned up. Once the system is cleaned up, then, they've got nothing to keep them safe. But apart from the opiates, it's going to be the mass deaths. And when you hide information, you're not immune from anything. You don't get to hide from liability. It doesn't matter what contract government signs. government's not legit anyway. So, I mean, they're going to end up paying the piper down the road, but a lot of people will be hurt by that time. Children, they're being targeted now. What is it, 50% of the people have been vaxxed at least once? And over the age of 70, 90% of the people. And now they're going after kids with candy. Fuck, there you go, eh? The guy in the van. Hey, little girl, want some candy? I got some ice cream here. Don't worry about the syringe in the other hand. Jesus, like Dexter, man. You know what I mean? It's just, it's mind-blowing. It really is. So, and there we have it. And kids just don't get sick. Well, they get a flu, a sniffle, or something like that, but that's that. I can't believe people don't realize what this is or what it isn't. It really is. It's just, I put that in the comment today. The dumbest fucking people that ever walk the planet today. You know what I mean? But that's mean. But I don't have a lot of patience for the drones anymore. And that's just because I'm realized there's nothing I can do to wake anybody up. And there's nothing that they can do to turn me into a drone. But it's, you know, and I realize that people who die are just diverging. Unless it's their time and they choose to go. We choose this independently as to when we stay or go. And I know the same with the kids. But I know also souls come down to, like, you know, the homeless and the drug addicts. They come down to show us, reflect back to us in that sense what it is we need to change. But, you know, it's funny. It's complicated because my reality is just a reflection of all of the shit that I hold on to inside. So I experience homeless because I embody or sustain or maintain frequencies that need to vibe up, need to heal. So I see, you know, homeless and drug, all the stuff that we see that's very negative, that is there because I'm still in those frequencies, and that it tells me it's complicated. You know what I mean? Obviously, if we understood how we could completely break free, we would have done it. So we're stuck in it. I can't tell if it's just a mission as a starseed, and we're here to hold light. You know, just the same as kids come down and they die young for their parents to experience that loss, so that they can dive deep, go within, and vibe up and open up their consciousness. Stuff like that, you know. I mean, so we have that mission thing. We have also the karmic experiences, and we have just generally, you know, experiencing the things that we need to experience in order to evolve into compassion and empathy for others, so that we can expand consciousness and bring humanity into its highest potential. But then, you know, when we're talking about this sort of metaphysics of reality being a reflection of me, that a version of you, or a version of people in my life physically, are just extensions of me in a sense. I mean, it's really them, but it's a projection of them. In other words, imagine a higher self, soul, sitting up in a cloud, and that higher self has 1,000 versions of you, kind of thing. And my frequency determines which one I'm going to experience. But it's even more than that, because everything's happening in the now. I don't want to get too confusing, but I don't want to miss anything either. So 1,000 versions of you, but then 1,000 versions of all of you throughout history, throughout the future and the past. Because all potentials are populated now. And then I guess we choose the route home. These aspects of the higher self, or aspects of the larger part of us. And that's very multidimensional. It's hard to wrap one's mind around. But essentially, if there's 1,000 versions of me, some of them could merge together. It would just be automatic because of the nature of the physics behind it. But if two frequencies came into coherence, it would merge together. And that's what we're doing, merging our aspects together so that we can come into coherence, and, you know, that expands consciousness, and we sort of move forward into new experiences and potentially diverge off into many explorations again. But, you know, we're merging aspects together. And I felt that when that happens, you know, all versions of us are moving into higher frequency. And so I'm assuming all versions of us of me and all versions of you, of you are aware that the ascension is going on. So our focus of attention is on coming into harmony within to make the most of this experience and ascension of humanity, in which case it's the most coherent time that we've had with ourselves. So, a lot of progress can be made to pull our aspects together, to vibe up and make this shift. I'm just not sure what I'm doing in the lowest frequencies of this crap. It seems like we really are. We're in the dumbest people. It's a smaller planet. It's, I don't know. It's mind-blowing that people they just don't look past what the system tells them is true. And I was having a conversation with somebody who asked me if I got vaxxed. And when I said no, they got all freaked out, kind of, and they didn't want to hear anything else. They just wanted to get away from me. And I thought, geez, that's crazy. We're just having a conversation for a little while. It was, I don't want to get into the specifics or anything, but having a conversation for, 15 minutes while they were working on something in my area and where I was. And then, casual conversation, hey, did you get the vaccination? No, I'm not going to do that. So it's not something, you know the story anyway. I didn't get into the conspiracy of it. I said, well, you should, if you get it, you should probably look it up and see what you think of it, see what people are saying about it. But they got just all panicky and just had to get out of the room that I was in. Didn't want to hear anything else. Didn't care about anything else. It just truly lost in fear. And that's the nature of it. And I think what spooks people now is people who don't want or don't buy into the bullshit is they don't want the drones to create enough traction or give enough support to a corrupt system that then turns around and tries to force vax, the rest kind of thing. Because, that's obviously what they're trying to do, but it's not going to happen. It's, we're seeing pushback now, legally, doctors and lawyers and even some politicians that are just not going for it. So, yeah, it's a lot of crazy shit going on. I feel complete. We've come through this massive awakening to new information about the nature of reality and the nature of the self and everything, God, ghosts, humans, the planet, ETs, extraterrestrials, science, metaphysics, all this stuff. It's a massive amount of learning. And it took, I would say, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day at least, me focused for sure on understanding. It included sketches and epiphanies and doing recordings, but 12 hours a day. I didn't do anything else since I would say the last month of 2015, 2016. That's all it was. It was just, so all of 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, that's 5 years, and then part of 20, I'd say 5 years, because I really sort of died off there at the end of the year. So 5 years, what is that, a doctorate in metaphysics? Must be. Because it also includes the awakening, the actual consciousness or the experience of multidimensional reality, as well as, being connected to higher frequencies of consciousness or the field or the ether, or whatever you want to call it, where you come into more knowingness. You just know. You know it's true. It seems the drones, they don't have a knowingness. They have an instinct, a survival mentality, a survival instinct, and they just pay attention to the herd. Basically, if the herd is moving left, you better go left. That's your best chance for survival. And so they just don't think outside the herd. They just keep with the herd, and that's that. And there you go. Yeah, maybe I'm going to keep this to 15 minutes. There's no point in making these things long. There's no real, huge insights anymore. If there are, you're going to come into them about the same time I do. I think we've all come to that point where we've learned everything, like I said, over the last little while, and now it's just pretty fucking boring. You know what I mean? I got kicked off YouTube, so I don't really, I wasn't really on there that much. It didn't bother me. And so I'm just not really on there. You know what I mean? I'm kind of feeling good about that too. Anything that was on there was just repeating itself over and over again. Same shit, different day. And I'm not picking on, I don't have anything new either. I'm not picking on anybody. It's just, at some point you have to, maybe I won't cut it off. I'll keep going. I want to put this on all the podcast, different things, and one of them, the reality split, is only supposed to be 10 minutes, but maybe I'll just put it up. I don't know. I also want to keep reality split less crazy. This stuff is kind of crazy for people. But then I don't even think that, the average person out there understands even the reality split stuff. I don't know. I think the people listening to reality split are still you guys. I don't think anybody in the community here is listening to anything like that. And it's pretty simple stuff. It's just about the nature of communities coming into their higher potentials and breaking free from, the nefarious controllers. And the supply chains breaking down and having to come together in the community to grow food and create new systems, education, stuff like that. But I don't know. It just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You just got to go with the flow of passion. Oh, I was going to tell a story. Yeah. It was long. I'm going to tell a short story. I could make it longer, more interesting and exciting, but I don't know. Basically, it was to prove a point that the big things that go on here in our lives, they seem to be controlled from a higher level. And it's things like I was sitting at a table. I had this urge to get up from the table. It was an incredible urge. And so I got up and I walked into the kitchen, which was the next room. And it was in a restaurant. It was after hours where I was working. And I thought, why the hell did I get up? You know what I mean? I had this urge to just get up. And it wasn't like a panic urge. It was just like, it would be like if you're sitting around talking to a bunch of people and you think, I just got to get up for a minute. You know what I mean? Maybe it's that empathic thing where you just feel a little bit drained, or there's a lot of talking going on and you just want to get up. But anyway, I got up and I walked to the kitchen. I looked out the window. It was at nighttime. And I watched a trailer right next to the restaurant, like just 6 feet away, burst into flames. Literally, I watched it as it burst into flames. So I called the fire department, and had I not seen that, the whole thing, all of us would have been, not the people, but the buildings would have gone up in flames. Everybody would have left the building, would have figured it out. But the thing is why did I get up? And it was because, obviously, the fire, the burst into flames. And, why do you go for a walk? Why do you go for a drive? Why do you do anything? And it's an urge to do something. And this is what we've learned as starseeds, is when you have a nudge to do something, do it. If you don't, then you're going to, whatever is to happen is going to take longer to happen, in the big picture. So you got to trust those urges, which essentially is that first flash of let's do it or let's not do it, or I feel good or I don't feel good, or I'll buy it or I won't buy it. Whatever it is that pops in your mind. When we second guess it, that's the physical mind crunching away, using its schema and its past life, or its past experiences, not past life, but its experiences within this lifetime and past lifetime, if you want to get into it, but because that's built into the, the cellular, the DNA, the frequencies of everything, and influences us, or, we've been purging that out, but essentially, because there's this sort of higher level plan, I was going to call it a soul plan, but a higher level purpose plan, which allows us to experience what we need to experience in order to expand consciousness here. And so the smartest thing to do is to go with the flow, and to go with that sort of, those nudges. Don't second guess yourself, because we really do essentially create our reality experience simply by the frequency we embody, And if you go with the flow, you're in a state of non-resistance, and things can come. And sometimes it is shitty things, and that's because they had to be balanced out. They had to be faced. The fear had to be faced, whatever it is. And sometimes they're so shitty, they're scary. Like it could be a big health issue or a loss of people or whatever. Because we got to face and release things. It's like spontaneous remissions and stuff when you just go, fuck it, okay, I don't care how it plays out. And sometimes you're booked out of here. You've chosen individually, personally, to just, it's time to leave and move on and do something else, or to head to another timeline. And sometimes it's, just a couple of things pop into my head here I wanted to say, but sometimes it's, anyway, you know what I mean? Like we're facing it. The point is, don't stay in fear and don't resist it. Allow it to happen. This 3D thing is about controlling life and trying to make things a certain way. This 5D thing is about going with the flow, expanding consciousness, not being in fear, knowing you won't get more than you can handle. And I forgot the two things I wanted to say, but and I think we've, all of us have died. And so death just isn't what we think it is. It can be from one timeline to another parallel, or it can be from one sort of life, one version of you, to a completely different one in a next lifetime kind of thing, all happening now. But I don't believe death is something we experience as painful. I think we experience the fear, but I don't think we make ourselves suffer. I don't think. I'm thinking, why would the soul want to suffer physical pain? We get enough of that in life, and why would we want to, experience any more of it? I think the soul is gone long before, days before, maybe in a week before somebody dies slowly, and before you fly out the window of your car and hit a telephone pole, you're out of your body before the car even hits anything. and like I said, it could be to a parallel. So you put an end to certain timelines. Your frequency rises up, so you leave certain timelines and move into other ones. So there would be a slingshot effect if you think about it, potentially. I mean, if we're here for a reason to hold the light or whatever. Once that period comes to pass, where now it's time for everything to diverge, we would potentially move into our highest potential, assuming there's no intermediary step that needs to be addressed. I think this divergence, it's just a divergence. I don't think it's intermediary divergences. There's an ongoing divergence all the time, the frequency change, because that's the nature of reality. But then there's some big jumps. Anyway, I think we all know all this. I guess I'm just sort of addressing stuff we know. Sometimes I like to address the intricacies of it, I guess. But, I mean, who gives a rat's ass, right? Nobody gives a stuff. Nobody cares about this stuff. The drones are busy, looking for sales specials at Amazon and Walmart still. And that's it. I don't have a lot of respect for the drones, even though I know on a higher level, everybody's doing exactly what they need to do and deserves the same amount of respect. I get that. And it's all one consciousness. But it's, I don't know. It's, if you have an apple and one side of it is brown and the other side is nice and fresh, it's like how I see it. You got the whole apple there, and it's all making up the apple. But I don't want to eat the brown side. You know what I mean? I don't want to eat the sort of low frequency side of the apple. I just want to. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the right analogy, but in other words, what I'm saying is that it's okay not to always be in that high frequency state of non-judgment. I think it's hard to. Some people can, I guess, be in a state of. I suppose the hardcore masters could. I'm not really anything. I'm not hating the drones. I'm not emotionally attached to anything. I guess I look at it like, it's just annoying. Really, it's just an annoying, long, dragged out divergence. And I guess to me, I shouldn't, but point the finger at them in a sense and say, you're the reason I'm still stuck here. But still no hate. I don't feel any anger. I don't feel anything. And I guess that's a good thing. It's a sense of balance. And that's what this was all about. I knew that. I was given that insight. I knew this whole thing was about balance. There was no end to what we would end up facing, loss of everything, in order to face all those fears, in order to release all the timelines, release the frequency in relationships, so that we could become sovereign and find inner harmony in that sovereignty so that we could move through this process. But I knew that inner harmony was more important than anything else, more important than sharing the information, more important than anything else. I don't know how else to say it. Because reality is a reflection of your inner state of being. And if you're not in harmony, then you're dealing with all the crap, in a sense. And these frequencies they're locked in there. The only way to deal with them is when we go through the purge, they come up and we face them, and to let them go. So it's not something that can be forced, and it's got to be done in stages or we go insane. I feel like I've come a long way. I don't sit here and panic because I don't know what to do or what you ought to take, blah, 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 or money or anything like that. I mean, once you get far enough into this thing, you just realize, shit, there's just, it's like the fire and getting up from the table. I mean, we're just going to make the move when it needs to be made. We know that. We don't always truly believe it, but we know we're exactly where we need to be at all the time. You know what I mean? It just seems like sometimes we're somewhere that just doesn't matter. Like, why are we, not supported? Why are we sort of, you know what I mean? And it's just all part of this process. So we're in it. I'm not making excuses for it. I just know what I know. I'm still not that thrilled with it. It gets to the point where even if everything was perfect tomorrow, I still don't have a life in this version of reality because I'm not interested in starting over in it. So it tells me there must be something very different that's going to happen. I'm so packed. I'm so whittled down to nothing that, it could very well be some sort of really interesting trip. Maybe it's on a craft off the planet for a little while. Maybe it's not. Whatever it is, I purged out today. I threw out. I have diplomas, or for colleges and universities and stuff. A bunch of them, and I threw out the casing they came in, and just took the paper and packed it in a suitcase. So I got basically all the valuable, things that you'd keep are in one tiny little suitcase. It's like an old-fashioned 1950s or something. Very light, little overnight case. And I don't know why I carried that shit around. You know what I mean? The little diploma covers, they fold over and all that shit. So they're gone. I don't even know why I have the diplomas. I could have taken a picture, but they just don't take up that much room. So, you know what I mean? It's whittled down. It could go anywhere. The art supplies, just sort of being boring here, but the art supplies I have, everything could be left behind. One suitcase I could literally take, and that suitcase is no bigger than a briefcase, basically, a double thick briefcase. And I could hit the road. Everything else, it's not worth anything. One duffel bag of clothes, 2 suitcases of food, because we had to pack it in order to move into a different room. You know what I mean? It's just nothing there. Now the van's gone. It's interesting. I just love being free. I always thought about getting a bicycle or a skateboard or a scooter or something, and I don't even want that. I just go walking. 11:11. That's interesting. I just looked at the clock. So it's beautiful to be free. And, what's coming up with all the shit that's going down is, I know what they're trying to do. It's, they're pretty open about it anyway. Essentially, if you have debt, then, give up ownership of everything you own and the debt will be wiped away. I was thinking about that. What do you call those fuckers? Debt collectors. I've had to face them 3 times because I'm an entrepreneur and things blew up as a starseed 3 times. One was student loan stuff. That's where I was first introduced to them. They brought the GST in and hit the restaurant hard, and the work and money wasn't there. I was working for free. I couldn't pay the student loan. It was only $2,200, and so that screwed my credit for 7 years. And then after that, it was another thing, and then another thing. But so basically, it was 21 years of being in the collection. It's just, and I never owned anything. I wasn't drinking it or smoking it or buying fucking cars or anything like that. I was working and hiring people and paying them, and it just blew up for one reason or another. But, and then it was all fine. It's all fine now. But I did learn that they leave you alone if you open up your own sex hotline when they call. Ask them what they're wearing, and do they want to know what you're wearing? You know what I mean? And just get right into it. And they stop calling, because eventually they're not scary. Unsecured debt, they don't do shit. But the point, I'm bringing this up because and the conversations are awesome. And sometimes it'd be nice. Hey, let's take the money. I got the money right here. I can give it all back. But let's take a trip, you and me, and we'll head down and have some fun in South America or something like that. I would just have fun with them and stay upbeat. And that's probably, that's the nature of reality reflecting, back. And shit just cleared itself up, But I was thinking, what was I getting onto that about tonight? Oh, yeah, because the nature of the economy currently and what's happening to people is we're going to have a shit pile of people with no credit absolutely blown apart. And they are going to have to wipe that shit clean for there to be any kind of economy. So that their full intention is to blow the economy apart, put everybody in debt, destroy them, economically destroy everybody, and then force them to do whatever is needed to be done by the New World Order in order to bring them into the Great Reset, Build Back Better. It's funny, I had a flash for a cartoon of Build Back Better, and it was all these fucking New World Order politicians nailed to a great big wooden wall, You know what I mean? With the blood coming out of the nail holes and with the build back better. You know what I mean? Big sign above on the top of the wall with all these, just a wall of politicians nailed together. Basically, not very spiritual, but funny. Obviously, I'm not thinking of it in an angry way. It just was a flash in my head of build back better. So, I mean, that's what the point is, right? And then make the food shortages. We know they're doing that. And the food shortages are, they're designed to get, people to become dependent on that system very quickly. And that's all going to fall apart because the communities are going to have to grow their own food. Uprisings hit and stuff. But, I mean, it's not hard to tell what they're doing. They're not exactly being quiet about it. That's the whole idea, right, with realities being built is you plant the seed, whether it's a movie like a Matrix and get everybody believing in, sim reality and stuff like that, or doesn't matter what it is. You set the story. You put the story out there, and then people start to relate it to reality, and then they buy into the idea. Well, it could be, and if it could be, it's all you need. It could be that, and then sprinkle it with some fear from the mainstream media, lower frequency. You control everybody and everything. A lot of scary shit going on with that vax. I won't get into it. If you're aware of what's really going on, you already know. It's really, really fucked up, isn't it? That human beings would do this to each other. That they would do it to the children. I mean, that's got to tell you something, We're not dealing with human beings. We're dealing with drones that have been vaccinated at least once a year with flu shots and heavy metals and stuff, and it's different stories that Adina can tell me. She's out and about more, but somebody she knew who got vaccinated and they look different. You disconnect from your higher self because you put your body in such a low frequency when you start getting that shit in your system. And people are different. And I noticed that. There was somebody I knew here too at the hotel, and very happy-go-lucky and just different. People are suiciding themselves from the timeline. But again, it's just divergence, right? Diverging away. I don't know. Boring. Couldn't get more boring. I couldn't get more or less motivated or less passionate about anything. But when we make this move, I will start making t-shirts, I guess. I don't know. What's up, Wayne? In the middle of a pandemic or fake pandemic and the implosion of global economies and the incredible rising prices of food. Holy shit. Double. I bought some instant mashed potatoes as a backup, that last a few months. They doubled in price. It was $40, $42 for, I can't remember how many instant mashed potatoes. It's now $84 for the same fucking potatoes. It's absolutely insane. Anyway, with all that going on, doesn't it sound crazy to say, oh, well, I think I'm going to make some t-shirts? Jeez, like what the? I think that's 3D survival talking, although I'd love to start doing some art. I did one t-shirt and it actually looks good still. So I know when I look at it after months and I like it, that it's, there's something there. I'd like to do soap. I'd like to do a bunch of natural products. I'd like to do all sorts of cool things, make stuff. And and you do that in the community. That's my thing. I like to make stuff. That's what I used to do. Create products and put them out there. So what else is going on? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think these days it's just nice to be able to share the idea that you're not crazy, I'm not crazy, that yes, we're aware the shit is hitting the fan, but it's going to be okay, that we're all sort of in the same boat. I had a conversation with my mother before she died. I don't know who initiated it, but she told me that, I just forget, she told me that everybody, I think I was talking about the fact that there was no future, there's no way for me to function anymore. She didn't, she wasn't awake at the time, but she said, everybody will be in the same boat. It won't matter if you're working now or not. Everybody's going to be in the same boat. You could be going to work every day, which I hadn't been for almost a year by that time. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter. So it didn't matter that I wasn't working. And there was no point. I mean, a lot of the starseeds, they just wouldn't be working. They're starseeds and wanderers. and they're not meant to be functioning, being part of 3D. And like, imagine if you're rich, would you have been completely immersed in 3D, never looking up? If you were just in one space, one spot, doing the same pattern over and over again, you would have been essentially, I don't think it's indoctrinated, but you would have been, or brainwashed, but patterned into a certain way of living and thinking and seeing and doing and acting, where Starseeds just weren't. I was all over the place. I was so all over the place, and I stayed going all over the place, driving back and forth across Canada and the United States every year, sometimes twice a year. Went to, I think it was like 24 different schools, including universities and colleges. Lived in a house, at least a different house every year, apartment or whatever, that I don't remember where the hell I was or when I was, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just a blur. And I'll get a nostalgic memory of me in the back of a car listening to Baker Street. I think somewhere driving through Montreal in the middle of the night in the back of the car, the twin mothers in the front. And it's a very powerful memory, but I have no idea what year it was or anything. That's the only part of the trip I remember. And I remember little bits and pieces of trips that they just blend together into one big lifetime of trips. It's crazy shit. But that's who we were. So how were we supposed to make a life out of having a frequency that was too high, where those who were in power and control couldn't relate, and we'd had to deal with a lot of passive aggressive bullying in that sense, because the people that we would be around couldn't contain themselves or keep themselves balanced, so they'd be pissy one minute and nice the next. And so, how were we supposed to rise up in that atmosphere, that environment? And then across the board, friends, family, work, school, didn't matter what it would be. And moving around, all of that stuff. We were destined to be where we are right now. There's no failure. There's just a disconnection from everything that is 3D, because it was an evolutionary shift out of a lower frequency of consciousness to come into a new state of being, state of mind, a new reality. So here we are. Boring. Anyway, this is 40 minutes, coming up to 40 minutes. I could go on and on and on, because it's one of those nights, It's purgy night. If you're having a hard time, don't worry about it. Purgy night. Oh, something else I mentioned. I was taking vitamins. Adina picked up some vitamins, and I'm not sure that they're that healthy. You know what I mean? I'm not advising anybody of anything, but when I take this shit, it just makes me feel sick. Maybe my frequency's too high for it. It was the same as when I was younger, smoking a joint. If your frequency's too high, smoking a joint will bring you down. You know what I mean? And listening to Pink Floyd, or getting into psychedelic type of entertainment, it was hard on the psyche. You'd be around your friends as an empath, picking up all kinds of shit. So I was never one to be able to smoke. I could drink for some reason. That didn't hurt. Although it puts you into a depression the next day. And then I couldn't drink. Once I started the awakening, I haven't had a drink or anything, or even a cigarette or smoked anything since somewhere in 2015, the beginning of 2015, I think. It's when I wasn't drinking. I can't remember. I guess it was to the mid 2015. But yeah, I don't think. I think the only thing that feels good in my body now is, and it's not all things, but fresh fruit and vegetables and things like that. But even then, I've watched and studied what these companies do to their food, and they saturate it in poison, in pesticides. It's just horrible. Like, you look at the pineapples. If you look at what Dole was doing with the pineapples and the slave labor, that they hired to grow and harvest or whatever pineapples, just brutal. And then they fly an airplane over. It's 13 or 12 or I can't remember. They soak the pineapples in pesticides. Soak them, Anyway, spooky shit. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to take time to get to know yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. When your frequency is higher, some of the foods you used to eat, you don't want to eat anymore. Some of the things you take, it might be lower frequency than you are, and it's not helping you. So I magnetize my water, and I liked fruit and vegetables. So I buy a bag of, those frozen mixed vegetables at the store, and I tend to just eat those and bananas. And I noticed that butter, it's like they put I'm not eating margarine. I prefer olive oil instead of any of that stuff, but Adina picked up some butter, and they must be putting silicone in it or something, because it doesn't melt. It's like that ice cream, that shitty ice cream you buy at the cheap, or at the Walmart or whatever, where you could leave it in a parking lot on a hot day and it wouldn't melt. And so there's something with the butter. It's not the way I remember it. It could be a reality shift, I don't know, but I think it's something to do with the butter. I also want to work with magnets around fruit to see if they'll last longer. I think they will, keeping things more coherent, field coherency. So a lot of things that I do want to try. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I just wanted to touch base on. I haven't talked for a bit here. I don't think so. I think the recording's getting too long to keep going on. 40 minutes. Look at that, eh? Seemed like it was 40 minutes a while ago. Maybe I was coming up on 40. All right, let's leave it at that. 41 minutes, and I'll talk to you later.